water, earth, fire, air. Long ago.
Hi everyone, and today I'll be comparing some works I've read in my English class to one of my favorite animated shows ever, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not only does this children's show discuss many adult themes such as genocide, trauma, vengeance, and land, but it also weaves a beautiful story of culture and closure. Warning, this video contains spoilers from Avatar: The Last Airbender, so if you'd like to understand the scenes and episodes I talk about in their entirety, please consider watching the whole show on Netflix before proceeding with my analysis video. Avatar: The Last Airbender is set in a fantasy world where human civilization consists of 4 nations named after the 4 classical elements: the Water Tribes, the Earth Kingdom, the Fire Nation, and the Air Nomads. In each nation, certain people, known as benders, can manipulate the element corresponding to their nation. However, only the Avatar can master all 4 elements. Long ago, all nations lived together in harmony until the Fire Nation attacked, sparking an event known as the 100-Year War, in which the Fire Nation almost wiped out the other nations in a quest for global dominance. While Avatar primarily focuses on the main character, an airbender named Aang, whose mission is to embrace his Avatar duties to restore balance to the world, this video will focus on my personal favorite character, Katara. While reading works such as Leslie Marmon's Silko's Ceremony, Simone Ortiz's From Sand Creek, and Anzia Yezierska's The Lost Beautifulness, I found many parallels between these works and Katara's personal journey and growth as a character. Katara is a 14-year-old waterbender who was born and raised in the Southern Water Tribe alongside her older brother, Sokka. Growing up, she faced the reality of her tribe's dwindling strength due to 50 years' worth of Fire Nation raids intended to capture and imprison the tribe's waterbenders, eventually leaving Katara as the last waterbender in the Southern Water Tribe. When Katara was 8, the Fire Nation raided her village once again to dispose of the last remaining waterbender. When a Fire Nation soldier invaded Katara's home, her mother, Kaya, lied and told him she was the last waterbender to protect her daughter, but got murdered as a result. The traumatic experience of losing her mother caused Katara to develop a deep-rooted hatred towards the Fire Nation. It's implied that the Fire Nation felt threatened by waterbenders due to their unique abilities, which I will discuss later, which is why they tried to wipe them out. This ties in well with the line from Silko's Ceremony, which goes, "They will fear what they find, they will fear the people, and they will kill what they fear." Here, Silko describes how fear of the unknown drives people to kill what they do not understand. Right after this line, she adds hauntingly that entire villages will be wiped, they will slaughter whole tribes. This parallels Katara's own diminishing tribe, as the Fire Nation had almost wiped out their entire waterbending culture. Silko also talks about the destruction of tribes in her novel and how the holy men at Laguna and Akoma warned the people that the balance of the world had been disturbed and the people could expect droughts and harder days to come. I think this feeling of loss and hopelessness resonates with Katara, which is why she's so happy when she meets Aang, as he symbolizes peace and hope in a war-torn world. However, while Katara serves to help Aang on his personal journey, she also undergoes a journey of her own. As the last waterbender of the Southern Water Tribe, Katara desperately tries to learn different waterbending forms in order to connect with the part of her heritage lost due to a century's worth of the Fire Nation's genocidal raids. To Katara, waterbending is a fluid bending art that not only ties her to her culture, but her mother. I've always found Katara's eagerness to learn waterbending as a way to honor her mom's sacrifice and uphold her legacy as the last waterbender of her tribe. In Season 3, Episode 8, The Puppet Master, Katara and her friends travel to a Fire Nation village and encounter an old lady named Hama, a waterbender who also grew up in the Southern Water Tribe but was imprisoned by the Fire Nation for many years. Katara and Hama bond over their shared heritage right away, and Hama teaches Katara everything she knows about waterbending so she can uphold the Southern tradition. During one of her lessons, Hama points to fire lilies and says this,
"And like all plants and all living things, they're filled with water."
I met a waterbender who lived in a swamp and could control the vines by bending the water inside.
I love this exchange as it reminded me of Silko's gorgeous descriptions of the natural world. This is where we come from, see? The vines, all the wildflowers. This earth keeps us going. Similar to Tayo's spiritual connection to the earth, Hama and Katara also connect with the natural world through waterbending. By grabbing water through the fire lilies, vines, and even thin air, they learn ways in which they can manipulate their natural environment and use it as an extension of themselves. In addition to passages about living plants, Silko also brings up an interesting point about living animals. Cattle are like any living thing. If you separate them from the land for too long, keep them in barns and corrals, they lose something. They are scared because the land is unfamiliar, and they are lost. When Hama sucks the water out of the fire lilies, she says this:
When you're a waterbender in a strange land, you do what you must to survive.
Here, not only does she imply that this Fire Nation land is unfamiliar to her, but also references her imprisonment and how she had to do what she could to survive as a waterbender. The word lost also has foreboding connotations as we eventually learn about Hama's true nature later in the episode. Eventually, we learn that Hama is a vengeful, witch-like woman who wants Katara to learn bloodbending, or the act of controlling water in someone's body, in order to take revenge on the Fire Nation and win the war. I realized that Hama, who imprisoned innocent Fire Nation villagers after her escape, possesses many similarities to Imo, who too harbors a deep resentment against his white oppressors. They took our land. They took everything. So let's get our hands on white women. While Katara hates the Fire Nation for its genocidal war crimes, and rightfully so, she also begins to recognize the darkness within her own culture and in turn, herself, through bloodbending. Katara's realization aligns perfectly with what the old man tells Tayo. That is the trickery of witchcraft. They want us to believe all evil resides with white people. Then we will look no further to see what is really happening. However, despite this horrifying scene, we do understand where Hama is coming from. In fact, Hama's desire for vengeance mirrors Hannah Haye's desire for justice, especially when she says, "If there is any justice and mercy on this earth, then may the landlord be tortured like he is torturing me." In a way, Hama's act of imprisoning innocent Fire Nation villagers demonstrates a twisted sense of justice that is very similar to Hannah's eye for an eye mentality. By passing down the art of bloodbending, Hama provides Katara with the tool she can use to achieve her own revenge against one person in particular, the man who killed her mother. In Season 3, Episode 16, The Southern Raiders, Katara's dark side surfaces as she finally gets the chance to track down her mother's killer. She's bitter, resentful, and unforgiving against the man who caused so much trauma and pain in her and Sokka's life, while Aang preaches about forgiveness, likening revenge to a poisonous viper. While tracking down her mother's killer, she even bloodbends a Fire Nation captain thinking he's the killer, even though bloodbending is something she swore she would never do. When she finally confronts the real man, however, the scene plays out like this. This scene reminded me of the ending scene and ceremony when Tayo almost jammed the screwdriver into Imo's skull the way the witchery had wanted, but stops himself at the end. Here, Katara releases the rage, survivor's guilt, and grief she's kept in for so long while also choosing not to kill her mother's murderer. And this ties in so beautifully with the line in Ortiz's Sand Creek. "I could have flown through the wall, his anger had opened, and strangled him to soothe finality. But my own dread, my own muscles refused the wings needed. I could only cry." In the end, no matter how much she wanted to kill the man and avenge her mother, she couldn't bring herself to do so and even says this.
I wanted to do it. I wanted to take out all my anger at him, but I couldn't. I don't know if it's because I'm too weak to do it, or if it's because I'm strong enough not to.
I think what I love most about this scene is that Katara chooses neither vengeance nor forgiveness, but anger as a way of processing the pain and guilt of her mother's sacrifice. In this episode, her anger and desire for revenge is justified and serves as what Ortiz would call an honest and healthy anger that freed her spirit. In other words, her anger provided her with the catharsis she needed to find closure. At the end of the episode, while Katara never forgives her mother's murderer, she learns to forgive herself, and I think that's beautiful. Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Katara in particular, tells us a story of genocide, trauma, connection to one's heritage through the natural world, and vengeance. And because of her beautiful narrative of processing grief and learning to forgive herself, Katara stands as one of my favorite characters of all time. Thank you for listening.